Hello, beautiful hearts. This is Lysa here. So excited to spend time with my friend and colleague, Lynn Hord from the Joy Jam Collective. We are deeply passionate about alignment, authenticity, and feminine business. This woman has been doing it in her own way for such a long time. It's really brought us together, and we're here to share our hearts from my new book, Heart Medicine, the 13 Principles of Feminine Business, talking today about identity gold. Lynn's gonna fire away some beautiful questions on your behalf. See how these resonate with you. We want you to feel safe, seen, and supported to really show up and share your sacred medicine in the world. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm excited. This is going to be a juicy conversation. And I finished reading the chapter that we're talking about last night. And honestly, there are so many things that I want us to talk about today that I think, people in both of our audiences are really going to resonate with and really go, yes, that's me. So I'm looking forward to diving in here today. So we're going to cover about 4 different points. And we're just gonna work our way through them one at a time, maybe. Look, we might do a bit of this and a bit of that, but I'll bring us back to the 4 kind of main things. We're talking about bravely speaking our truth is one. We're going to be talking about the qualities that we need to bring out in order, for people to really see us, our kindred spirits. We're going to talk about utilizing, all of the things that you may have in the past not liked about yourself and how to really utilize those or been not liked for, and how to really utilize those to show up so beautifully in your authentic self. That's my words, but we'll get to yours. And we're going to be diving into uncloaking the wounded story to reveal our potent truth. That's a big, juicy one.
It's a big one for the finale, hey? That's really for the finale.
Really.
Because
we might end up there first.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way. All right. So are you ready to dive in?
We are ready.
Okay. So one of the phrases or sentences in this chapter is, as we bravely speak our truth, that's when we become receptive to the connection we've longed for our whole lives.
Oh gosh.
I'm getting all the tingles right now because that is such a potent sentence.
We were devoid of the belonging and the connection that we craved for such a long time, which forged us onto this path of seeking the expertise, the skill set, the knowledge, the experience to conquer whatever it is that we've conquered. Every woman has conquered something. And this is such a potent time for us to rise and influence and power in business. But we have to face that reality that the lack of connection from our past is not indicative of the connection that's here for us now and in the future. The isolation that we've known is something we need to kind of separate as being in the past, because when we speak our truth, now we can be received. Now we can be heard, appreciated, and loved, which is a game changer in our identity.
It is, and one of the things I wanted to kind of really touch on, but that takes a level of vulnerability to share in that authentic way that gets that authentic connection, like that deep, soul level, love level, compassion level connection that we actually really want, not the surface level stuff. So it requires a real level of vulnerability, which requires us to be able to make ourselves feel safe. Would you agree? Would you say that?
Definitely, safety is the premier component, but then the question is, how do we create safety? So for me, this is about the infinity symbol only needs to start with one little kickoff. So even if that's a vulnerable admission to a friend or a husband or our children, the reality that when that's received and heard and we feel loved for being who we are, that strengthens the ground that we can stand on that's safe. So this is not about coming out with massive vulnerable, this is my story, and then wanting people to love us and adore this. This is about us recognizing the precise moments where we can take a small step forward, be received and loved, and then over time gather our territory, but really making sure we're holding that ourselves to discern that little bit of vulnerability is key.
I love that, the baby steps, those small steps, so that we're not stepping into a space that actually freaks us out or causes us to go back into trauma because it was too much exposure or too much vulnerability. So I love that, just stretching into what you can manage in terms of greater expression and greater vulnerability. I love that. And I think that's a really discerning point, because I think a lot of people are out there like, does that mean exactly as you said, does that mean I have to get out there and just like expose my heart and my trauma and my wounds, to the world in a way that feels deeply unsafe? No, definitely not. It's a gradual movement into, from what I've seen and what I've experienced, into greater levels of vulnerability, because you've increased your safety along the way. So I love the way you said that.
So well said, Lynn. Beautiful.
Okay, I feel like it's a natural move into the next question.
Yes.
So one of the other things you've said in the book, and I'm looking over to my notes because I was like, oh, these are all the things I really would love to talk about today. So the qualities we've been disregarded for are the same ones that magnetize our kindred spirits. Talk to us about that.
Oh man, I mean, I was called Lecture Lysa Ann as a child, because damn, I had a point on everything, and they got Lecture Lysa Ann's at it again, and now I literally speak, present, teach, and lead all the time. Right. So for me to assume that position where I gave myself, right, authorized my voice and my expertise and shared it, I had to, once again, like we're building on that first point, hold myself and stand in the safety that I had to expose a part of me that I had been ridiculed for. Oh gosh, the fact that in kindergarten, I told my teachers as a 4-year-old a better way that they could run the kindergarten. Can you believe that, Lynn? How audacious I was. Oh,
this is incredible.
This is legitimate. So, my mother got a classic phone call. I was around 15 in high school, and they said, your daughter is causing trouble, complaining about a teacher. And she said, well, is she right? And they went, yes. And she said, well, I don't want to hear about it. Do something about it. So, really, really fortunate that she backed me up, that my opinionated nature, okay, is something that has caused so many feather ruffling moments. But I've also written a book, and I've written a book really encouraging us to find feminine ways to nurture ourselves and our businesses, because it doesn't exist, right? This masculine model is stifling, right, and restricting the medicine that wants to flow through us. So thank goodness I was an audacious little know-it-all of a lecturing child, because that's who I am.
Thank goodness, my friend.
Thank goodness. But that's so scary for me, right? And now that, so many people are deeply appreciating the work that I bring forward, it's that sacred coming home and full circle to remember that what we were criticized for in the past can bring us triumph in the present and the future.
It's so true. And when I read this, I was reflecting on, what's one thing for me that relates to this. And I have a very childlike essence. You saw her before we got on, because I was so excited, and I call her my inner child, like my little inner girl. She was really excited about this conversation. But when I was younger, I was told, stop being such a child, stop being so giddy. I was essentially told to dim that energy down. Wow. And so she didn't come, she wasn't a part of my everyday experience for decades, until I started on my own joy journey. And then, I was like, whoa, what is this energy, And so she's come out, and then I began to realize that people loved that. They loved the energy. They loved to experience that. It inspires them to go and find their own joy, to go and connect to their own inner energy. And so that's, for me, an example of exactly what we're talking about here. All of those qualities, and then our natural selves, isn't it? But we
our authentic self.
Our authentic self.
Yeah.
We were taught not to keep it down because it wasn't acceptable, or whatever the story was. So, and it's such a beautiful, as a human, to allow that part of you out again, to appreciate it, and to go and to love it. It is such a journey, but such a beautiful journey that we all get to go on, which is one of the reasons I think I really resonated with this part in this sentence in your book.
Thank you, Lynn. And your beautiful homecoming, I can really see, catalyzes a homecoming in so many. And for anyone listening to this interview, that we need to hold both of those agendas first and foremost to the top of our heart, is our own sacred homecoming in business, where it's a sanctuary for our truth, but also that we're creating a place for other people to come home to the truth of who they are as well.
I love that. My little girl's very happy right now. She's like, yay. All right. So I'm a very practical person. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is you use a beautiful example in this chapter around how you really harness. So it's how one of the things you talk about is how to utilize and harness the precise qualities of your appearance and your personality and your past to entwine your message with grounded relatability. Beautiful. So, and I loved it because you share a practical story in there about how you did create this experience for yourself. So I'd love for you to actually share that story, please.
Well, I think when so many people reacted so violently to me as a child, you start going like, gosh, what are they actually seeing? Like, what's going on here? So at a pivotal point in my business, I realized that my full expression was my pathway to prosperity. So I signed up to do a weekly video on YouTube, like get it out. And one of the things that happened was that, you know, often when I would film, I'd have the camera flipped around, you know, the little piece would come out and you're kind of watching it while you're doing it. And I'm training myself, right, to look at that lens and avoid myself. But I actually found a really nurturing process to become deeply connected with my eyes, my voice, my face, my body by witnessing my own videos afterwards, really appreciating myself, really taking it in. And that was where I realized, and this, the first chapter of the book is about taking our own medicine, is that being around myself, watching my own videos, I'm like, oh, this woman's fabulous! Oh! And like all of the stuff, my thighs are too big, I'm too overweight, I'm getting wrinkles. Do you know what I mean? When I really narrowed in on the heart connection I felt from that woman, you know, reaching out to me, I received her, and that legitimized the value of sending that out. So now I have no qualms about who sees me, how they see me, or how I look. So it frees the message to get from deep in our belly, from our wisdom, up to our hearts and out through our mouths.
I'm so glad that you put this example in the book, because I think part of the journey as women in business is facing up against our own self-criticism, our own self-judgment. And that really gets in the way, as you've just said, of us truly sharing from a really deep place. And so that self-witnessing, you know, of that, for me, when I read that in the book, it was a process of learning to have compassion, to have love, but all like deep appreciation for, you know, the message you have. And there are times when I will read back over something I've written or watch a video, I'm like, dang, that was good.
Lynn! Whoa!
Thank you. But it's wonderful, isn't it, to have that outside perspective rather than being in our brains or, you know, having that internal view of ourselves and just going, actually, we're pretty damn good, you know, and this is really worth me saying. And I think it's a valuable thing to share. So it's a great story for anybody who's like, well, how do I get through that? Like, what's something that I can practically do to help me move through that? And you know, what you've done is, you know, that process is, as I kind of see it, is like of self-love and self-witnessing, so that you can move through and into that place of deep appreciation for yourself.
Look at us.
As you well should.
Fine women, and anyone watching this now, you know, really look and monitor how incredibly inspired you are by what you share, whether that's on any platform, but take yourself in.
Yes, sister, yes. Love it. All right, so we've got the humdinger to come.
I love this humdinger.
So one of the final things in this chapter that really struck me was talking about uncloaking the wounded story reveals our potent truth.
Oh, you know, this is the deepest leap into vulnerability, because the story seeks to keep itself hidden. So, you know, when we connect with a girlfriend or a client, it's so easy to hear their story. They don't think they're enough. They don't think they're lovable or deserving, whatever it might be. But I tell you what, that is very evasive in our own internal world. And this is absolutely vital for us as feminine leaders to get eyes and compassionate awareness on how that story is kind of pushing you, pulling you, restraining you, and restricting you. And my favorite one is the story can't stick around if I sing it like it's a country song. Oh, woe is me. Nobody loves me. What am I gonna do about being me? And when you start really taking some of those shitty lines that are in our head about no one loves me, this isn't important, we've all got it, start like, I really like the country ditty. That really starts getting comedic, comical. I'm like, oh, here I go again. The story's playing. This is uncloaking the wounded story. And once you can keep it here, it doesn't go away. But we're going to keep it here, and we're going to sidestep. We're going to hop into our inner child, our full radiance, and go, this medicine qualifies me as the messenger. This is too important to stay hidden.
I have no words. That was beautiful.
If only I had a fiddle. The fiddle would really.
Mate, I need my boots on because I can do like a country line dance to your country ditty.
and if we cannot take it seriously, because the moment you take that seriously, you've lost control. You're not being authentic in business. You're following rules set up by someone else. So our free, uninhibited, messy selves are actually what reach our kindred. This idea of perfectionism and looking really good and sounding really tight and neat is not what they're after. They're after someone who is loving enough and generous enough to show up and share so they can take it in.
And that makes us relatable, exactly as you'd said, in the book. We want to know that somebody has experienced what we've experienced, that that they have made it through, even when they're in their difficult and those dark times when you're just like, I'm not sure, I can't see the light, can't find my way out of here. And to go, yeah, look, we get it. Like, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is that I think someone I followed, Denise Duffield-Thomas, she always talked about being a contributor, not a guru, and so we're not up here saying, oh, we know it all and this is the path. We're saying, look, we've trodden this is what worked for us. Maybe you want to give it a go, try it for yourself. And so I think that that's also, part of it. I think that that's also a really important part of sharing our truth is to go, hey, this might help, might not. Take what works and leave the rest. That's one of my favorite sayings.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a fallacy that there is a guru who's nailed anything. I can assure you the house is messy. They've got terrible relationships. And
that's right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no facade that anyone can pull off anymore. So thank goodness we have the sacred privilege of revealing our potent truth in this life. What a privilege to show up on global platforms where we can connect with our kindreds. Do you know, like, it was only 10 years ago that we didn't have an international audience, right, without flying all around the world. So this is such a rare privilege for us. And the receptiveness of that audience back will confirm that this beautiful sacred part of us is worthy of love and is a valid, worthy part of us, which is our deepest fear.
That reminds me of something we talked about before we got on today that I really wanted to touch on. So, one of the things that you talk about in the book is, when we are sharing our, authentic truth, we receive that deep connection. We open ourselves to receive that deep connection from our kindred souls. And obviously, and I'll speak for myself, it's very nourishing and very nurturing when I know that something has landed, with something. I'm like, oh, thank God, like it's actually, it's been useful to somebody, like somebody's actually, it's landed, for them. But one of the things I often have heard out there is like, you shouldn't be seeking that validation. Like, you shouldn't be relying on that, like to go, okay, let me keep going. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are around that topic of validation.
I really understand that spiritual view of like, have a neutral position and don't do it for the validation. And it seems like it's very high and spiritual, but it's also divorcing us from the very real experience of being embodied children. Like we're just inner children running around in adult bodies, and those inner children have needs. So I take it as my responsibility to provide for those needs, which is why I give the message that I need. So my work is first and foremost about nurturing myself, nurturing her. But what's the harm in enjoying when it does land? Like, the reality is that if you are disconnecting from that, you're actually blocking some of the light and beauty that we're meant to receive here. This infinity symbol is actually something that's repeated through the book, that if we're going to show up in our truth, when they show up in their truth to receive us, it actually feeds and nourishes us to go that next expression. Okay, and then our kindred, they'll like feel the next expression of closeness towards us. And this is how we're building community. This idea that we shouldn't need validation and appreciation or approval is just BS, because we're humans, right? And it's a fundamental need that if we ignore, how are we going to have the juice to keep going, right?
Love it. So many things you just said. I had to laugh when you talked about little children running around in adult bodies, because that is how I feel a lot of the time.
Oh, that's happening. We know what we're doing. We have no idea what we're doing.
And that reciprocity, I know that that's a symbol that you use in the book, is the infinity symbol. And you've just illustrated that beautifully around, we give out, and then part of the receiving the energy return is that warmth and that nourishment from people who are acknowledging that it landed, which, as you say, gives you some energy to then like go back out again and do it. So it is a beautiful reciprocity, as part of the system of exchanging energy and delivering your truth, so it lands, and then having the courage and the energy to go and do some more. So I love that. I love the visual of how that plays out. And I also love that you called it BS, because I'm like, it is BS, because like that can't be right. So
meanwhile, they're saying that message to like a whole bunch of people kneeling, sitting before them. It's just like, it's very convenient for you to say that you don't need any recognition or appreciation from like a whole cohort in front of you giving you homage.
Yes. And I mean, that's, as you say, fundamentally as humans, we want to be seen, heard, and appreciated, like, and valued and acknowledged. So it has to be part of the process. Obviously, we don't want it to be a crutch, but we do want to, as you say, actually be open to receiving it, rather than going, oh no, I shouldn't take that in, because it is a natural and beautiful part of the reciprocity. I love that, how you said that.
Well, what I would really like to hear from you in conclusion, Lynn, is a piece of your sacred identity that you can now see as gold.
Well, so I do, and I think it is back to that, I call her my effervescent child. And it wasn't until I went through, a really difficult journey in my life that I actually truly connected to her. It was only a couple of years ago. And she is my pure natural state. And I never really realized, but bringing her as much as I can to the table it raises the energy, it lifts people's spirits, it encourages them to go and find it for themselves, as I said earlier. So I'm really learning to, allow her out, allow her forth, and calling her forth as much as I can. So that would be my identity gold that I've been really trying to nurture and bring forward.
So moving, Lynn. And I feel her in this beautiful top that you're wearing, and this beautiful shade of lipstick that you've got on. And may everyone watching this really receive deep permission to step deeper into who they are, and know that that is the key for their rise, and that's the key to connection with their kindred tribe.
Before we go, what is your identity gold? You can't get away.
I think that I'm deeply needy, is like that. I don't want to give something that I've worked on a lot. It's my neediness that's still, it's scary for me to think about, saying the wrong thing, or not being in the right place at the right time, or falling short. And I have such a need to make sure that I'm seen as reliable and fit in and belong. And I keep that quite private. But I've been called so deeply to create community because I know I need people around me. I deeply, and that's what writing this book has really shown me, is I can't do it on my own. And that's like so hard for me because I didn't have anyone to rely on for so long. I'm like, da, 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 I will master the day, and like fully have accomplished so much on my own to reach this point in my life and go, I don't have this on my own, is my identity gold, because none of us do. And if I'm brave enough to say that, and I'm brave enough to call BS that a woman should thrive and rise on her own in business, then I can actually create a space for other women to be able to feel the strength of gathering in community with communal witnessing and communal camaraderie.
That is beautiful. Thank you for having the courage to, share that, depths of your being with us. And it is a beautiful, it almost feels like it's a call to arms for women, especially conscious women in business, like, the women wanting to do business in the feminine way, to recognize. And someone said it to me not long ago. She's like, we can't do this alone. Like, we cannot do it in isolation. And I mean, that's certainly been part of my journey, is trying to do it all by myself. So thank you for, making us aware of that. Thank you for having that be part of your message, and for creating the solution, like creating the containers that I know that you powerfully do to welcome people in. For anyone, when you actually get to this chapter, there is a beautiful story of how Lysa creates that sense of community and communion and the safety to show up in a beautiful dinner that she created. So if we've got time, you can share about that. And if we don't, guys, go and check it out in this chapter, because it's a beautiful way to wrap that up, Lysa. You are just like on it. Beautiful.
Oh, we're delicious. So grateful for your friendship. And I really hope that everyone watching this can reflect on, what is it about you that is that next little step that you can really own, you can embrace, and you can bring forward in your life or in your business, and really take that step. We're going to have the details. Definitely check out the Joy Jam Collective if you want to be around effervescent, childlike joy that Lynn exudes perpetually. Please go and gather in her beautiful group. It's such a nourishing, gorgeous space. And likewise, I have a free support group that will have the links there for this new book, Heart Medicine, the 13 Principles of Feminine Business. I trailblazed a way that I knew feminine leaders would need to share their sacred medicine in the world. Absolutely check it out on Amazon. It's free for the next few days. Download a copy, let your heart receive, and may we show up, shine. Thank you for your shining, Lynn.
And yours, my friend. Keep shining brightly and beautifully and courageously.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here.